Well, the roofing is here. We've got all the carpenter work done, the underlayment's up there. I've even got the first coat of primer on the overhang, and right on schedule, shingles are showing up. I gotta show you what a blessing it is to have somebody else put those things on the roof. Can you see the difference between carrying that up a ladder and watching a young man like that just pull it off of a pallet, throw it behind your toe board? It's the way to go. It's been about 3 weeks since I've been up on this roof. I've taken care of some other things. We've been working on the inside a little bit. I've been resting up after the ordeal of getting this framed and dried in before the rain got here. And so, as good luck would have it, the morning I'm going to start the roof, it frosted. First frost of the season, and so this is slick. And I've been killing a couple hours this morning waiting for it to thaw, and I just can't wait around much longer. I've got safety gear on this morning. I'm going to work my way up these toe boards, tie the grab rope onto the horizontal lifeline that's just over the peak up there, and then start cutting some starter strip and some shingles to get going off the scaffold. And right now I can tell you this scaffold is really earning its paycheck. Well, however much additional traction this Tiger Paw gives with water on it, it is even slicker, if that's possible, than frosty tar paper. So yeah, I'm staying off of that. I'm working off the scaffold here for about 20 or 30 minutes, putting in starter strip, and then we'll get started working our way up the hill. So when you're putting down asphalt shingles, you don't just start with the shingles at the edge, because the shingles are fastened down, besides your staples or your nails, they're fastened down with the asphalt strip that is put onto the material prior to placement, that heats up on a warm day and glues the bottom edge to the middle of the shingle that's underneath of it. A starter strip, a starter shingle, has no texture, no 3-tab, no architectural third dimension, but it does have a strip of the asphalt about 1.5 inches from each edge, and it's perforated, so you can just break it and then put these things in place with that asphalt strip at the bottom. I don't know if you can tell in the time lapse how badly I'm floundering trying to get the hang of working around this rope, but it's fairly pathetic. And I have to assume part of that is that my learning curve is steep, because I've never tried to work on an 8/12 pitch with a safety line, standing on a scaffold on a slippery roof, you know, wrestling shingles. And I'm not a great roofer anyway. But that being true, there's no possible way I could have put the sheeting on this roof tied onto this thing. I just couldn't have done it. I would have fallen and hung myself on the rope in trying to keep myself safe. And I think that even the most ardent supporter of safety regulations and OSHA's involvement in our workforce and the lives that have been saved would have to confess, if they were actually pinned down on this, that a big part of the inflated cost of housing, the inflated cost of building generally, just has to be the cost associated with safety. And specifically today, the cost associated with the safety line from the peak of the roof to a harness tied between my shoulder blades while I'm trying to walk around and get some work done. It's not easy. And maybe it's worth it, but for me, here today, baby, it's right on the bubble.
This Tiger Paw underlayment is a game changer for roofers. It's better in every way. First, it's just a lot safer. Because, to begin with, it's lighter. It's way lighter than tar paper. It's easier to carry up a ladder. It's easier to move around on a roof. It's easier to roll out and keep it straight. Second, it's safer because it will not tear. You can't tear it. It is double tough. And so once it is nailed down, you do not have to worry at all about whether or not it's going to tear out underfoot and send you sliding down the roof. Tar paper is notorious for that, as you probably know. And this stuff is absolutely bulletproof in toughness. The third thing is the first thing that you notice, and it's this. It's grippy. When you step out onto this stuff, it gets a hold of the bottom of your boot, and you don't have to think all the time about when you're going to slip and slide. The only two downsides that I can think of are, first, it's about 3 times the cost of regular tar paper, but it's probably 10 times faster. Now, I don't know if it's 10 times faster, but it goes down quick. And then once it's in place, it completely sort of puts your chalk line out of work. Because when this material is put down straight, you can just put your head down and follow those lines with your shingles and never give a second thought to whether or not your shingle courses are straight or not. You know they're straight because the tiger paw is straight. The only other disappointment was when I read that I couldn't use my hammer tacker to staple this stuff down. Hammer tackers are lightning fast, and putting down these plastic capped nails is not lightning fast. But on balance, I can tell you this, I never intend to put anything under shingles except tiger paw underlayment from now on.
So I'm going to put this roof jack on here. This is the 3-inch ABS pipe vent penetration. I've got it stood in nice and plumb. I'm going to slide it down here and shingle around it. Keep in mind, I'm a carpenter. I'm not a roofer. So if you see something amiss, hopefully you won't see what will be a leak, and it's just a matter of personal preference. I've got Aaron here with me handing me shingles, and let's see how this goes. So the intention is to make everything shingle over the top of that flashing, just like that, and have the flashing weep or drain out of here. I see I need to come underneath with one piece to cover this up. Everything about this is about estimating distances, because all it has to be is waterproof. So I don't know if you can see that, but this is going to remain exposed right here, and the other shingles will come up just about flush with the bottom of that jack. And then when you now on this side, everything about the top of this is going to be covered by the next course uphill. So this doesn't have to be fit around above the pipe. I'll just cut it off at about where this 3-dimensional object begins to emerge above the plane of the roof. I'm going to mark it from the back like this. Turn it over and cut it square. Break it off. We did good. Hold back from the flashing a little bit. So the end of the shingle would have been right there, which means that this next course can just lay over the top and I don't need to try to put that little piece in. Simply mark where this is going to terminate right there. Mark where this one's going to terminate, which is right there. And then we are going to estimate the distance back like that, about there. Drum roll, please. Gonna be pretty good. So I don't know if this is exactly the way a real roofer would do it, but that is going to be very, very watertight. Shingling is the notion of overlapping so that gravity's always your friend, and gravity will be our friend right there. And besides that, as with so much else on this job, it's a long, long ways from the ground. It doesn't really matter whether you cut this edge or this edge, but you hold it back a little bit because this is straight from the bottom and your cuts aren't straight. So you hold it back a little bit so that from the bottom all you see is that edge. Short nails. It's funny, isn't it, how some people have a head for heights. I don't know if it's like having a musical ability or if it's like being good at calculus. I don't know. But Aaron's got a head for heights, and I think most of these boys do. As it turns out, the safety harness is just too big for him. He would fall out of it at every opening. But I like to take people rappelling. I've been taking people rappelling for quite a long time. And so I knew that I had sit harnesses and webbing that I could scale that down and put him in a rig that he just can't get out of. So Aaron's gonna be handing me shingles again today. I won't have to look over my shoulder because there's just no way for him to get to the ground. And like he just commented, it might stop him from falling, but it wouldn't be comfortable. But 14-year-old boys don't always need to be comfortable, do they? So we're gonna get a little work out of this kid today. I'm 50% done. The west half is complete, and so the second half's going to be a lot quicker, right? It is, because just like Saturday when I had Aaron here handing me the shingles and doubling my productivity, Amanda's going to be up here with me in probably half an hour, and so I get to spend the day working with my girl, putting shingles on her roof. Now we're going to strap her in. We're going to continue to use the simple safety solutions when they make sense. With the scaffold along the edges, I tell you what, I don't see how I could get to the ground accidentally. So I'm going to be free to move. She's going to be free to work without thinking about where the edge is. And we're going to have a terrific day once the sun comes out. So now that I've worked on this tiger paw for a few days, I can tell you it is just as amazing as I thought it was going to be. But even though it is still grippy with a little water on it, you can't let your guard clear down. Because if there's enough water on it, it won't quite hold you on an 8/12 pitch occasionally. So you've always got to have that little red flag waving in the back of your head that yes, it is a roof, and yes, it's a long ways to the ground, and yes, I've been able to stand on here every day up till now, but you always kind of keep your running shoes on. Now, the other thing I want to point out is that these starter strips are really a time saver. So don't make the mistake of buying ordinary 3-tab shingles and cutting them in half or turning them upside down in order to get the glue strip down towards the bottom, because it just doesn't work. Get these things if you can. And then the last thing is this. There's this little plastic film on the back side of the adhesive strip. I don't know if you can see that. Maybe you can. I know a guy who made the mistake of peeling all of that off for his whole roof. But you can ignore this. It's just to keep them from sticking together in the pallet, on the stack, in trucking. But once they come up to temperature, this stuff goes away and the adhesive strip fuses nice and tight. And that is a big chunk of what keeps your shingles on in a windstorm. So I made a mistake when I started with this starter strip here 10 minutes ago. And that is that I unthinkingly, not being a roofer, started with the right overhang and went. I should have cut off about 6 inches so that the seam on my first full shingle doesn't match the seam on the starter strip. You always want the seams, the joints between the shingles, to not stack, and you don't want them to happen with a nail exposed either. So it's no problem, because the first cut in building a lead on these shingles, as per directions, is to cut 6 inches off so that you begin to stagger the break as you go on up the hill. So I'm going to put this shingle on as if it were the second course coming across the roof, which will simply do nothing except make sure it doesn't leak right here ever. So here's the upshot of fixing this little mistake. When this next shingle goes over the top, all of this mess is covered up. Here's what makes a difference, in my opinion, and doesn't. That was just a foul shot. It angled over, it cut that shingle. So I followed up with another one which is set flush. That one was also slightly wrong in the way the nail gun set it, so I followed up. So that's held down, and all 4 of those nails are covered by that shingle. No harm, no foul. Can you see the beauty of this tiger paw? It's got these lines, they're everywhere, and they're straight and they're regular and there's no overlooking it. I'm down a little there, so what? Non-issue. You can double check your placement with the line at the top and the line of the additional layer right there at the bottom. Fast, accurate.
I've just got to thank Mike Morris at Roseburg Roofing for lending me 70 of these toe board jacks. Now there are other ways to rig up toe boards, but none that I know of, are anywhere near as effective as these things, and I just couldn't have done this job without them. Amanda was our first child, and she was pretty much perfect as a kid, except for this. She just grew up so quickly. It went by in the blink of an eye as I look back on it. And, you know, the old people in our lives had warned us about this as Kelly and I were raising our kids, and we thought we understood what they were saying, but we didn't really understand it at all. So here's the deal. Young dads, I'm talking to you right now. You gotta wake up. You only have a short moment in time with your kids. So don't waste your one shot. It boils down to this. You can either raise your kids and spoil your grandkids, or you can spoil your kids and raise your grandkids. It's up to you. But we had a great day on the roof. In fact, we had 2 great days on the roof. And I'm never going to forget it.
Amanda and I did good yesterday. The sun finally came out and we got, I don't want to tell you how many squares. It's irrelevant because we're not roofers. But we did good. We have no nails exposed to the sky. All the water will run straight downhill. The overhangs are nice and even. And we get to do it again today, except today it is damp and cold and Oregon minus the rain. But we'll be warmed up by the time we get up towards the top, and maybe by the time we wear out this afternoon, this thing will be largely done. We've almost done it, and I'm not sorry to see it done. Next item, pull down this lifeline. We can't shingle over the top of it, and the attachment points have got to come off the end. I'm attaching this little gizmo, which it admonishes should only be screwed down with screws that are deemed acceptable by a competent person, so that in the circumstances we find ourselves must be me. I'm going to screw this down, I'm going to tie Amanda to this, get rid of these big, heavy, wonderful, convenient green attachment points, and start in with the vents, tying them in with the shingles, get the ridge cap on here, and get back onto the ground. So putting this ridge on has been a hybrid of The wonderful feeling of completion and closure, and the incredible frustration of materials not being exactly what you thought they were going to be. So the GAF shingles have been great, and the GAF Timberline high profile charcoal gray ridge cap is pretty good too, except for two things. Whether I didn't install it right or it was not labeled correctly, I didn't quite get 20 lineal feet out of each box. That's problem one. That meant I had to scramble and find some more of them in town. Problem two was the second box, the first half of the box was not quite folded evenly. Now these are folded evenly. I mean, you've got the same reveal on both sides, but about a third of that second box was folded unevenly, and I made the command decision to swap ends that I was coming with to put a better presentation side to the side that would be seen. What that meant was the center point coming from the both ends to the center was going to be skewed to one side, which is always going to plague Ben's OCD tendencies. Won't bother me a bit. Can't see it from my house. But then at the end of the day, I ended up 3 short. So I'm going to jump up there, put these 3 in, and call it a wrap. But I did discover that that red nail gun is better than the green one. I found this at a garage sale. I bought it. 25 bucks. You can't complain about that. And it worked pretty well up on the bulk of this roof with the 1¼ inch nails that I was putting in the field. Steve Hood loaned me this one, a Max super roofer, and I used that for the 3/4 inch nails on the overhangs. But when push came to shove and it was 1¾ inch nail that had to be run down that ridge on this really almost unbelievably frustrating morning, this was the one that made it happen. This poor Hitachi just wouldn't consistently set those long nails all the way down. And I've got the depth setting maxed out. So for what it's worth, if you're confronted with a choice, I think this is the one I would buy. I would be lying if I said that I was not relieved to have this roof on before the rain started. And it's on. It looks good. It matches the neighborhood, and it matches the existing house. I'm ready to start the siding and then the interior work, and that's going to match the existing house also. It's an LP lap siding. LP had problems in the past, but they've got the bugs out of their system, and it's a good long-term solution as long as you keep the paint fresh. So watch for that. Coming soon to a theater near you. Thanks for watching Essential Craftsman, and keep up the good work.